Welcome to this episode. In ancient times, the term Ethiopian was used broadly to describe Africans, particularly those living south of Egypt. The ancient Greeks, notably Homer, Hesiod, and Herodotus, referred to these Africans as Blameless Ethiopians, a title that reflected the high regard in which they were held. This essay delves into the historical context behind this term and explores why Africans were called blameless by the ancient Greeks, Romans, and other early civilizations. One of the earliest references to Ethiopians in literature comes from Homer, who described them as a noble and divine people. In the Iliad and the Odyssey, the Ethiopians are depicted as a race beloved by the gods, with Homer famously stating that Zeus went yesterday to ocean to a feast with the blameless Ethiopians, and all the gods followed. There is no time to sit. To the streams of ocean, to the land of the Ethiopians, where they offer a hecatomb to the gods, I go once again, so as to receive my share of the feast. This portrayal of the Ethiopians as favoured by the gods underscores their elevated status in the ancient Greek imagination. Hesiod, another Greek poet, also contributed to this portrayal by recounting the Ethiopian king Memnon, a figure of immense reverence. In his epic poem, Theogony, Hesiod not only speaks of Memnon's divine lineage as the son of Eos, the goddess of dawn, but also highlights his role in shaping the ancient world, further linking Ethiopians with celestial and divine qualities. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BC, referred to Ethiopia as the farthest region of Africa, and described the Ethiopians as taller, handsomer, and longer lived than any other men. He also noted their lands as being rich in gold and ebony, emphasizing their wealth and physical beauty. These attributes, along with the moral integrity attributed to them, reinforced the idea of Ethiopians as exceptional people in both character and prosperity. The idea that Ethiopians, i.e. Africans, were deeply respected in the ancient world is further supported by the works of Pindar, a 5th century BC lyric poet. In his Olympian odes, Pindar celebrated Memnon's deeds and leadership, even associating him with the establishment of the city of Susa in Persia, modern-day Iran. This suggests that Ethiopians held significant influence beyond the African continent, further adding to their esteemed reputation. The notion that Ethiopians were revered extends to their role in shaping early civilizations, especially Egypt. Diodorus of Sicily, writing in the 1st century BC, asserted that Egypt was a colony of Ethiopians, led by Osiris, the Egyptian god of the afterlife. This claim suggests that the grandeur of ancient Egypt, long admired for its intellectual and architectural achievements, was rooted in Black Africa. Diodorus further noted that many of the customs, religious rites, and symbols used in Egyptian society originated from Ethiopian traditions. The connection between Ethiopia and Egypt implies that the profound influence Africa had on Mediterranean cultures, especially Greece and Rome, cannot be understated. By framing Ethiopia as the progenitor of Egyptian culture, Diodorus of Sicily elevates the contributions of Black Africans to the foundations of Western civilization. The term Ethiopian, derived from the Greek word Ethiops, originally referred to the dark-skinned peoples of the African continent. According to the renowned historian Herodotus, often referred to as the father of history, the Greeks regarded the Ethiopians as a prominent people, distinct from the Egyptians. In Book 2 of the Histories, he states, "The Ethiopians are a great people, more just than any other." This phrase encapsulates the respect the ancient Greeks had for this group, illustrating that the term was not merely geographic, but also deeply cultural. Homer, writing in the 8th century BC, mentions the Ethiopians in both the Iliad and the Odyssey, highlighting their esteemed position among the gods. He writes, "The blameless Ethiopians, the most favoured by the gods, were the first to feast with them." This portrayal reflects the significance of the Ethiopians in Greek mythology, positioning them as paragons of virtue and moral rectitude. Moreover, the ancient Greeks associated the land of the Ethiopians with great beauty and prosperity. Hesiod, another foundational poet of Greek literature, described Memnon, the king of the Ethiopians, as a noble warrior whose home is blessed with abundance. Such references illuminate the perception that ancient Greeks held regarding the richness of Ethiopian culture and civilization, emphasizing their significance not only in Africa, but also in the broader Mediterranean narrative. Many ancient historians, including Herodotus and Diodorus, wrote extensively about the African presence in early European and Mediterranean history. Lucian of Samosata, a 2nd century AD Greek satirist, claimed that astrology, a key scientific discipline, was first introduced by Ethiopians and then passed down to the Egyptians. This statement emphasizes the role that Ethiopians played as intellectual pioneers in fields that would later influence Greek and Roman science and philosophy. Heliodorus, Greek writer and priest of Isis in the 3rd century AD, described the Ethiopians as models of wisdom and righteousness in his work, Ethiopica. His Ethiopian king was portrayed as a compassionate and merciful ruler who encouraged peace and refused to punish enemies with death. This consistent depiction of Ethiopians as moral exemplars aligns with the Greek notion of blamelessness. But why were Africans called blameless by the Greeks and Romans? The answer lies in the ethical virtues attributed to them. Diodorus of Sicily, for example, noted that the Ethiopians had never been conquered by external forces and maintained peace within their society for millennia, due to their just and pious nature. He remarked that the Ethiopians surpass all men in longevity, justice, and piety, highlighting their status as a morally superior people. Roman historian Claudius Aelianus, writing in the 3rd century AD, echoed similar sentiments, stating that the gods visited the Ethiopians frequently due to their righteousness, calling them the justest of men. The term blameless thus reflects a broader cultural perception of Africans as paragons of virtue, untouched by the corruption and conflict that plagued other societies. The cultural significance of the term blameless Ethiopians can be understood through various ancient writings that depict Africans as possessing moral superiority. According to Diodorus of Sicily, the Ethiopians are like the gods. They have never experienced invasion, living in peace with one another. This account indicates that the Africans were revered for their peaceful existence and ethical conduct, which the Greeks recognized as a model for society. This reverence is echoed in the writings of Lucian, who praised the thoughtfulness of Africans, suggesting that their wisdom contributed to the philosophical foundations of the ancient world. He noted, "The Africans are thoughtful, their wisdom profound, and their knowledge unparalleled." Such assertions reflect a consistent admiration for the intellect and character of the blameless Ethiopians, emphasizing their role in shaping ethical and philosophical thought in the ancient Mediterranean. Furthermore, the Ethiopian influence extended to governance, with the idea that their systems of justice and law were foundational in the development of societal structures in the Mediterranean. Claudius Aelianus highlighted this by stating, "The Ethiopians do not need doors in their homes, as they are a people who do not steal." This portrayal reinforces the concept of the blameless Ethiopians as a society that thrived on mutual respect and integrity. In addition to their moral superiority, Africans were also recognized for their contributions to intellectual and cultural advancements. As mentioned earlier, Lucian claimed that Ethiopians introduced astrology to the Egyptians, who then passed it on to the Greeks and Romans. This indicates that Black Africans were instrumental in the early development of science and cosmology, disciplines that would shape Western thought for centuries. Ethiopian architectural influence also extended into Egypt, whose temples and monuments inspired later Greek and Roman designs. Black Africans were depicted in art and sculpture across Mediterranean cultures, reflecting their revered status and substantial influence. German scholar Eugene George emphasized this point, stating that Ethiopians played a dominant role in Africa, Asia, and even Southern Europe for over 1,000 years. Their influence on trade, religion, and politics laid the foundation for many aspects of international commerce and governance that we recognize today. In 1825, Arnold Hermann Höring, professor of history and politics in the University of Göttingen in Germany and an expert in the economic interpretation of history, published his great work, Eden Huber, where he concluded that it was among these ancient black people of Africa and Asia that international trade was first developed. He wrote that as a byproduct of these international contacts was an exchange of ideas and cultural practices that laid the foundations of the earlier civilizations of the ancient world. Höring wrote, "From the remotest times to the present, the Ethiopians have been one of the most celebrated and yet the most mysterious of nations. In the earliest traditions of nearly all the civilized nations of antiquity, the name of this distant people is found. The annals of the Egyptian priests are full of them, and the nations of Inner Asia, under Euphrates and Tigris, have interwoven the fictions of the Ethiopians with their traditions of the wars and conquests of their heroes. And at a period equally remote, they glimmer in Greek mythology. When the Greeks scarcely knew Italy and Sicily by name, the Ethiopians were celebrated in the verses of their poets. And when the faint gleam of tradition and fable gives way to the clear light of history, the luster of the Ethiopians is not diminished. They still continue to be the objects of curiosity and admiration, and the pen of clear-sighted, cautious historians places them in the highest rank of knowledge and civilization. Stephanus of Byzantium, who is said to represent the opinions of the most ancient Greeks, wrote quite starkly that Ethiopia was the first established country on earth, and the Ethiopians were the first who introduced the worship of the gods and who established laws. The 19th century English historian Flora Shaw, who was incidentally the wife of the then British Governor-General of a colonized Nigeria, wrote that the fame of the ancient Ethiopians was widespread in ancient history. Herodotus described them as the most beautiful and long-lived of the human races. And before Herodotus, Homer, in even more flattering language, described them as the most just of men, the favourites of the gods. The annals of all the great early nations of Asia Minor are full of them. The Mosaic records allude to them frequently, but while they are described as the most powerful, the most just, and the most beautiful of the human race, they are constantly spoken of as black, and there seems to be no other conclusion to be drawn than, at that remote period of history, the leading race of the Western world was a black race. The legacy of the Blameless Ethiopians endures as a testament to Africa's central role in the development of human civilization. The term Ethiopians, of course, was not limited to one group, but encompassed all Africans south of Egypt, a recognition of their profound influence and standing in the ancient world. Ancient texts, from Homer to Herodotus, provide a glimpse into a time when Africans were seen as moral exemplars and key contributors to intellectual and cultural advancements. Diodorus, and others confirm that Africa, far from being on the periphery of history, was at the very centre of it. The Blameless Ethiopians remind us of Africa's profound impact on shaping the ancient world and invite us to reconsider modern narratives that often marginalise Africa's contributions to global history. Through the accounts of ancient writers, we gain a deeper understanding of Africa's significance in the past and its enduring legacy in shaping our present. The legacy of the Ethiopians reaches beyond the pages of history. It speaks to our very soul, reminding us of the heights humanity can reach when guided by principles of fairness, wisdom, and devotion to the greater good. Their unblemished reputation serves as a model for us all, urging us to strive for a future that echoes the values of the blameless Ethiopians. Thanks for watching this episode. Do remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and look out for the next one on Africa's great civilizations.